Have you been avoiding movement because your body hurts, you're exhausted, or you feel like fitness spaces just weren't designed for you? Here's something most women are never told, that movement isn't supposed to break you down, it's supposed to support you. And when your body feels safe, supported, and regulated, healing becomes possible. Today, we're diving into a powerful and often misunderstood form of movement, aerial yoga, and how it can reduce pain, support your nervous system, improve sleep, and help you reconnect with your body without fear, force, or burnout. But before we dive into this episode, y'all already know what time it is. With me, y'all. Welcome to the Empowered Plates, Empowered Lives podcast. Welcome back to another episode of the Empowered Plates, Empowered Lives podcast. This episode is sponsored by Forward Vibrations, where your health, your habits, and your healing finally align. Y'all, it's your Healthy Habits and Lifestyle Coach Jovonnie, helping women who are tired of pushing through pelvic pain, bloating, and burnout finally understand what their bodies are trying to tell them before they lose more years accepting dysfunction as normal. Y'all, today's guest is someone whose journey through chronic nerve pain and years of teaching yoga led her to discover a completely different way to move, one that meets you where you are instead of forcing you to keep up. Her work with aerial yoga is helping women redefine what movement can feel like: supportive, empowering, and even healing. Welcome to the Good Vibes Studio, Jo.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much for that warm welcome and getting all the good vibes flowing. Excited to get into it.
Yes, ma'am. So many women are afraid to move because of pain, fatigue, or past experiences. What do you want them to understand about movement that could change everything?
Well, I guess I see movement as being a tool in the toolbox. There's a long history of women's pain being dismissed, and a lot of chronic pain conditions are under-researched and not taken seriously. So I am not one of these people who say, just do yoga and relax and your pain will go away. But I think that it can be a way to help you feel better, to help you kind of regulate your nervous system. It can be a way to help to manage the pain and improve your sleep. There is definitely a connection between cortisol levels and pain levels, but just telling someone to relax is super unhelpful. So I like to offer a lot of different movement techniques and strategies to hopefully help people find for themselves what works for them, and to also experience like play and pleasure in movement, because I think that's something that we often lose sight of when we are dealing with pain, obviously, and the stress that can come with that. And it can be really powerful and a really beautiful way to reconnect to feeling good in your body.
Thank you for that. I think that's a beautiful place to even start the episode, with play and pleasure in movement while even dealing with pain. I think that's really important. I was talking to a student today, and I was asking her how she was doing, just checking in with her. And she said she's actually feeling so much better now. And I asked her, what could she contribute to it? And she says, I'm actually doing things that I enjoy, and I'm finding those things. And I said, well, you know, as a student at this age, it's so nice that you're embracing that journey to even get to know what it is that you like and get to know yourself. Because sometimes with pain, with burnout, with fatigue, there's a lot of stuff that people get lost in, of everyday hustle and bustle and being stuck in the mode of survival, that you forget to know who you are, explore more who you are, and to have fun. I also like that you said movement is a tool. And it's very important that you identify different techniques and strategies to use movement as a tool, but most importantly, a tool specifically designed to help your body heal. And so movement shouldn't feel like it's a punishment, but it should feel more like support. And I like that reminder just to get it started. Aerial yoga can look intimidating at first glance. What's the biggest misconception people have when they see it?
Well, unfortunately, it is the images that we see online a lot. Like, we see a lot of the same body type, young, really skinny, really flexible. And it's so much more than that. Like, there are definitely moves that could feel like they could be in the circus, and there is an aerial arts influence in some of the moves that we do, but it's actually so adaptable for different body sizes, different ages. I'm more about using the aerial hammock for support, whether it's support for balance, because you can hold it with your hands as you work on balance, or because it does move in a fluid way, you can really challenge your balance and stability in safe ways to build that strength. But also, you can lie in it like a cocoon. So that can feel really nurturing, really supportive. If you're exhausted, like, full permission in my classes just to have a full hammock nap for the hour. Like, I'm here for that 100%. And maybe from that cocoon, you can start to flow into some spinal movement. And if you've been dealing with back pain and a lot of movement of the spine feels activating, feels uncomfortable, there might be some fear around movement, having that support can allow a little bit more freedom of movement. And that translates into relaxation within your nervous system and within your mind. And I feel like that is one of those ways that we can shift movement from being something that might feel intimidating, like there might be some fear around it, into something that really is about feeling good and feeling like a relief for your body and a chance to let go.
And I like that reminder to know that movement can be a relief. I think sometimes when we think about movement, so many people just think about exercise when it comes to health, when it comes to healing, when it comes to what your body needs, is more like exercise, stressing, the muscles out, the muscle groups out a lot. And it's not necessarily a form of relaxation. I remember when I used to go to the gym, and my favorite part would be going to the massage bed after I've done the Stairmaster or have done some weightlifting machines. And it was like, that was my favorite part. I put on a 10-minute guided meditation. I would sit there and relax and just let that massage bed just do its thing. And that to me was, like you said, relaxing. It was calming, and it was definitely a great start to a day that you don't even know what those challenges are going to look like. And so for that woman who sees these young, skinny, young, flexible people utilizing aerial yoga, to know that it's adaptable and you could actually just lay in the aerial hammock and like a cocoon and just do some spinal movements and fluidity, really be beneficial to your body. And I think that's a beautiful thing to say that talks about those misconceptions. You've experienced nerve pain traveling down your leg. Can you walk us through that journey and how it shaped the way you approach movement today for your own self?
Yeah, so I never really got to the bottom of what started causing the nerve pain. And I actually, like, from the research I've done, I think it might just be connected to perimenopause and hormonal changes in my body. It didn't come from an injury, but I would have this pattern of like muscles in my pelvis and in my lower back tightening up. One time I hurt myself getting off the couch, and then I'd have like a lot of pain, like sometimes for weeks or months, that would flare up. And I went to a lot of different treatments. I went to an osteopath. I went to a physiotherapist. I went to a myotherapist. I went to acupuncture. I went to a pelvic floor physiotherapist, and they all helped a bit. I'm sure that I have this in common with other women who have experienced persistent pain. There's the pain, and then there's the anxiety that goes with it, because I've got a physical job. So I need to move my body to do my job, to show people the movements that we're doing in class. And I would have this fear, like, firstly, is something that I'm doing in my teaching causing this pain and causing these problems? And am I making it worse by continuing to do this? Am I teaching something that might be hurting other people? And is it going to get to the point where I'm not going to be able to move? And like, that's definitely something that was part of it, and maybe even increased the pain because of that, like, connection between cortisol levels and pain levels. Some of the things that helped me are medical cannabis, so CBD, and also flowers. That was really helpful. Acupuncture is something that I continue to do. I do that once a month for maintenance. And pelvic floor physio was also really helpful, like with internal release techniques that then I could do myself. And what we kind of got to was an understanding that this is a pattern that happened in my body. Like particular muscles in my pelvic floor would tense up and they would put pressure on my sciatic nerve, and that would send nerve pain down my leg. And also muscles like through my glutes and through my lower back would tense up as well. So it was more like a pattern of stuff that was happening in my body rather than an injury that I could heal or work with. And for me, strength work was a part of that as well. And like that moment you're talking about at the gym where you do your workout and then afterwards your muscles are really ready to relax. So that feeling was enhanced for me by swim, spa, and sauna. Like I'd swim my laps and then I'd sit in the spa and then I'd sit in the sauna, and I still do all of this, and that really helps. There might have been something I was doing, like I teach Pilates. So maybe I was doing a little bit too much targeted strength work on some like muscles within the glutes and within the pelvis. Like that is something that's recommended for sacroiliac sensitivity. I don't like to use SAJ dysfunction or SAJ instability as terms because sometimes it's not that. Sometimes it's not dysfunctional and it's not unstable. It's just highly sensitized. So I don't think it's helpful for people to like put a label on something when we don't actually know what's happening. Because that is something that I learned a lot about working with the pelvic floor. All the symptoms of an underactive pelvic floor and an overactive pelvic floor are super similar. So you might think that you are doing strength work because you need to build stability when actually those muscles need that invitation to relax. Because ultimately we want both. We want our muscles to be able to engage when we need them to work and to relax. We don't want any muscle in our body to be on all the time because it's just going to get burnt out and it's going to get tense and it's going to get painful.
Yes, I agree. I didn't realize it. It took a 4-hour long surgery for me to realize that how I was living, the patterns, the habits, was really fueling a lot of inflammation in my body. I was diagnosed with stage 4 endometriosis, adenomyosis, polycystic ovarian syndrome, and they found 2 small fibroids at the time of my surgery. And when I had to do pelvic floor therapy immediately following, to really start helping after having the surgery and healing, pelvic floor therapy was strongly encouraged because of so much work that needed to happen within the 4-hour surgery and reconstruction. And when I tell you, working with the pelvic floor therapist, like, and she's telling you to squeeze, and you're doing everything you can to squeeze, and it's not squeezing, and the muscles aren't getting tighter. And then when you're asking to relax, I didn't understand the power of being constricted when you need to constrict and being able to relax when you're able to relax, and what that does in regards to your pain and your pain levels when it comes to pelvic pain. And I was just like, oh my goodness. So I could definitely relate to that. And I'm glad that you reminded everyone that there's times when your muscles need to be tensed, and then there's times when they truly need to be able to relax. And if it's hard for them to go between the two, some work needs to be done. I also like that you gave some acknowledgement of throughout your healing journey, what are some of those tools that have helped, like acupuncture, pelvic floor therapy, just to name a few of them. But you talked about Pilates as well. And then you talked about strength work. Sometimes strength work can go against what it is that you're trying to work towards. And that's, again, a reminder that your movement should be intentional. So like you said earlier, if it's a day where you just need to be able to relax your muscles and not provide all this extra strength and tension on them, and just take a nice nap in the hammock, then that is what intentional movement looked like for you that day. And I'm really glad that you spoke on that. When you talked about the different patterns, though, that you felt like was starting to trigger your pain, and you said you think it really started to happen from perimenopause, and you started seeing this pattern effect of what it started triggering and leading into that nerve pain. What are some of those patterns that you think people get caught up with every single day that they don't realize could be leading to their pain?
Well, there is a real correlation between sleep and pain as well. And it can be a bit of a negative cycle because obviously, if you're in pain, you don't sleep as well. And then your pain is worse the next day. I feel like as well what you're saying about getting a message to your muscles to relax, I was aware that I had like tense muscles, especially in my glutes. So I would do things like self massage, and I would feel like a temporary relief from that. So I think that if you're having a sense that they're just areas that tend to like fire up for you a lot, like tight spots in your body, places that always feel tense, places that always feel tender when you have a massage. Sometimes that can be like the early warning that maybe there is a habit of movement in your body that is overloading certain places. There can be an emotional connection as well to all of this. And definitely pelvic floor tension can be really connected to not feeling safe, feeling stressed, feeling like you have to hold everything together. And just to acknowledge like everything that's happening in our world at the moment, I can understand why people might not feel safe and relaxed. Like there's just so much going on and the future is so unknown. I never try and start a yoga class by saying these practices are about relaxation or to describe a particular pose as relaxing, because I want to meet people where they're at. So sometimes it can be moving in a relaxing direction and feeling the things that work for you. But I don't want people to feel like they're failing at relaxation, because I don't know what's happening in their lives. And I don't want this stuff to feel like another source of pressure or failure if you feel like you aren't in touch with your body and you can't relax certain places. So it's really more about awakening communication and connection and noticing the things that do feel helpful for you, the things that feel like they're working for you. And then sometimes as well, it's about getting expertise from someone else. So someone that you trust, someone that you work with over time, someone who might have a different understanding about how the body and the mind work together, and just getting some support when you need it.
Yes, I like that communication and support reminder. All right, so one, you talked about sleep and pain. That correlation is a pattern that could definitely be fueling the pain. Two, you talked about maybe different types of movement happening in your body, the way you're moving your body, causing tension in the body in certain parts, whether that's your shoulder area or your low back area, just areas where you need to do a self massage, or when you get a massage, you're feeling a little sensitive in. That is an area as well. And then three, you talked about stress and how that high level of stress or not feeling safe or anxiety could also be fueling the pelvic pain. So those are three things that I really pulled out in regards to what it's looking like for that lifestyle pattern that you may not even be acknowledging that could be happening. If this conversation is sparking something in you and you're ready to uncover your personal inflammation triggers, those triggers in your lifestyle that you don't even realize could be fueling your pain, I want you to go and take the Spot Your Triggers quiz. The link is in the show notes of this episode. Now let's get back to the conversation. So Jo, we talked about those ways that people are starting to see some patterns, or may didn't even realize these patterns are now associated to how their body is communicating, and making sure that they can go and get support, making sure they understand that the pain that they're feeling, the discomfort that they're feeling, the tension that they're feeling is their body's way of communicating, sometimes in a whisper, sometimes in a scream. But I kind of want to get to what your moment was like when you realized aerial yoga wasn't just movement, but an actual healing tool.
I think it's when I started sharing it with other people. So before I was teaching aerial yoga, I've been teaching yoga and Pilates for about 20 years. And there's a barrier sometimes to getting up and down off the ground. And I do teach chair yoga as well. So the chair brings the floor up to you. But then when I discovered the aerial hammock, it just opened up so many new possibilities, because a chair is kind of rigid and stiff and you can sit on it and move in different ways. But the hammock, you can lie in it, you can hang upside down from it, you can move in all directions. And I started to see how people responded to that in my classes. And the people who I saw the most light up the most and have the most appreciation were people who maybe have felt restricted movement in the past. A lot of people in my studio community have bigger bodies, and a lot of toxic diet culture finds its way into yoga spaces and into gym spaces. And sometimes teachers aren't necessarily equipped to provide different options to help make movements more accessible for people in the practice. And sometimes teachers have options, but they focus in on that person too much and makes them feel really singled out and self-conscious, even if it's coming from good intentions. And like that is also uncomfortable. So what I noticed with the hammock is it's like an extra set of hands is the wrong word, but it supports the person in a way that they can feel into their own movement with that support and empowers them to more and more tune into what feels right for their bodies. And I find it easier to offer those different options in an aerial yoga class versus a mat class, just because there's so many different movement possibilities. So I really just started to see how it helped me be a better teacher, because I have my little like teaching buddy, the aerial hammock, and like after the session, like you could see in people's faces and hear in people's voices, and people would tell you that like they'd achieved a level of relaxation in the hammock that they'd been looking for in other movement classes, in yoga classes, or like guided meditation settings. But this was the support they needed to help them access that state. And that is what my job is, to help people find their own state of yoga. And it's not about me telling them what's right for them, but just facilitating that journey for them. So I really appreciated these new options and these possibilities that people could discover for themselves. Like I feel like it made my job easier.
I agree. And I love that it was in the testament that other people really enjoyed it, that made you fall so much in love with it. And I also like that it's supportive to their movement, which also makes them feel even more empowered to continue to move with that type of support. Because when your body feels supported, it starts to trust again. For someone who's never tried it, what actually happens in an aerial yoga session, and how does that hammock support the body totally different than that traditional movement that happens in yoga?
So I start out with the sequence we've already talked about a little bit, lying in the hammock like a cocoon, taking some time to feel your breath if that's comfy for you, or if it's not, just feeling the fabric, taking a bit of space between whatever else has been happening in your day and in your week, which obviously affect your state of mind as you move into your yoga practice, but also shifting focus from all of those things happening around you, all the things you normally need to respond to bringing that awareness inwards. And just tuning into what's happening in your mind and your body and what you're working with here and now. And then we flow into gentle spinal movement, side to side, rolling over onto your side so you can flow into curling into a little ball and then arching into a back bend. Tuning in to how your spine is responding to those movements, noticing if there's areas that feel like they need a bit of extra nurturing, if there's any grumpy spots, any stiff spots. And when you do the same warm-up sequence every class, you notice the changes in your body each day. We flow over to lie on the back, still fully in the hammock, and I do some glute warm-ups. So I start with the feet together, the knees wide, lifting and lowering through the hips, and then legs together, lengthening and bending the legs, and also keeping the knees bent as you lift and lower into a little bridge. I start with these because a lot of my students are coming from a day in a chair in an office. So just giving those muscles a little bit of different input, like they've been working to keep you in that position. So give them the opposite action. And it's also, this happens in the background, but a whole body nervous system check-in. Because some days you find that you can stabilize yourself quite easily. Some days it's all over the place. The hammock's moving around a lot. And it's those things we were talking about before, the stressful day, the bad night's sleep, the pain. All those things are going to have an effect on your nervous system. So it's a check-in. See how you're feeling that day. See what you're working with. And then flow to your other side, flowing back into that spinal movement. And after the glute warm-ups, after the other spinal moves, see if things are changing, see if you can find a bit more freedom of movement, a bit more comfort and ease. That's what we're looking for. And then from there, it kind of depends on what type of class it is. Because I have restorative classes where we hang the hammock low to the ground. And we use it the way you'd use a bolster or a yoga block in restorative yoga. So part of your body, maybe it's your head, shoulders, and upper back are on the floor and your hips and legs are in the fabric. That's one option. Or it could be the other way around. It could be your legs and hips are on the ground and you're opening your upper body back into the fabric with it behind you. I often do more active classes as well. So we might flow into some movements that are standing poses with the support of the fabric. And sometimes it's full support. Like it attaches from 2 points at the ceiling and then it loops underneath. And the loop is about your hip height. So you can stand with the hammock behind you, wrap it underneath your arms and hold it with your hands. And if you need extra support with your balance, like you've got it because you're holding on with both hands. And we might move into some more kind of movements that come from the legs, hips and pelvis, sometimes some balancing postures, sometimes some single leg moves. I often like to bring in some calf raises because that is a strength and stability move that is very accessible to a lot of people, whether you're working with back pain or pelvic pain. It can be quite a good way to find that whole body strength and stability. And there is like a real connection between the arches of the feet and the pelvic floor. So it can be a good way of working with that sensitive area in a way that feels safe, not directly working into people's pelvis. Though I do movements where you can sit in the hammock and it's underneath your pelvic floor, supporting you. And then it means that you can move your legs and your hips in lots of different ways. And the muscles that would normally need to engage to keep you stable in that position can actually be a lot more relaxed. So you can flow into some different types of movement. Again, great if you are sitting or standing all day for your job where your body has to work to keep you in that position, to do all of these other different movements and work with all of these muscles together in different ways, but with the support of the hammock, because it's a very different feeling to like staying in a squat for 5 minutes and moving side to side to sitting in a hammock for 5 minutes and moving from side to side. And I think that the tactile feedback of the fabric beneath your pelvis can also help to just connect your awareness there. There's the option for inversions. It's not everyone's favorite, but the people who love it, love it. If it's someone's first class, I will always start low to the ground. So hammock's about ankle height. You can make the muscle memory, how you work your legs, how you work your upper body to come in and out of that upside down position. So you feel safe and comfy and like confident in your grip strength and your upper body strength to navigate yourself in and out of that position. And then if you feel like it, we can bring the hammock higher up in the air and hang upside down with the hips supported by the hammock. Depending on what's happening with your back, it can feel like an amazing decompressing feeling with your spine lengthening down. For the neck especially, because our necks are always working to carry the weight of our head. So to be upside down can be a really relaxing feeling for the neck. It can be a way to see the world from a different perspective. So it can really turn your world upside down. And it's a lot more accessible than a headstand or a handstand or a shoulder stand, and also a lot safer if you have any vulnerabilities around your neck and your spine. It can be really empowering. So especially if maybe you are one of those people who've just felt like you're always behind in the gym class, or maybe you don't feel like some kids are upside down kids. If you weren't an upside down kid, if you weren't a sporty kid, if you never did gym or cartwheels or handstands, you can like be that inner child and play with those movements and do stuff that feels fun and empowering. There's a lot of laughter in the classes as well, and that group energy. So it's like the energy builds. We're doing standing poses, active poses, maybe upside down. I often do some strength poses as well, like especially working on grip strength. That can be really important as we get older, and also bone density becomes more and more of an issue, like from our 40s onwards, but really it's a good thing to work with all your life. But making those movements fun as well. So like one example is I do a sequence where you're stretching your legs. One foot can be in the hammock, get a hamstring stretch. And then to change sides, you could change from the ground, take one foot down, put your other foot up in the hammock, or you could hold the hammock with both hands and take a big swing and change legs from the air and then lower your foot down that way. So that's an upper body strength move, a grip strength move, a whole body coordination move, but it feels like play.
I
So
like that you
though,
talked about like the headstands and the traditional yoga moves that you've seen, but this one is a lot more supportive, utilizing the fabric and safer. I also like that you talked about and reminded us how much the neck plays a role in just holding our head up all throughout the day and finding that relief as well. So you definitely did a really good job breaking down what it looks like. I took some notes. That first thing is really just getting in the right focus and headspace and being present by just simply lying in the hammock. And then 2, doing some gentle spinal movements. And then 3, the glute warm ups. And really, because a lot of people you deal with have sedentary jobs, they're not moving as much or sitting down most of the time when it comes to their work, or even just sitting looking at a computer. And then everything else just depends on the type of class that you have and what direction it goes in. So you really gave some really good insights on what it could look like for area yoga, but also reminding us that it's fun. And there's different ways to move. And I like that you also talked about the different age groups and why it's so important, because lifting things, you want to be able to still lift things, put groceries in the cabinet and in the refrigerator or in the pantry, and just everyday movement. And you want to just make sure you're getting in the habit and the groove to allow your body to move. You also told me about the vestibular system, which most people have never heard of or don't even talk about it being of a benefit when it comes to movement. Can you break down why that matters for balance, confidence, and overall well-being?
yeah, absolutely. So our vestibular system's in our inner ear, and it regulates our physical benefit, our physical balance, but it can also correlate to our emotional balance. So some moves tend to be more soothing for the vestibular system. So gentle forward and back movement tends to be more soothing, like rocking chair vibes. Some movements tend to be more stimulating. So roller coasters, upside down, spinning movements, random movements, those tend to be stimulating for the vestibular system. But some people need vestibular stimulating movements to feel regulated. So we all have a vestibular system, but I see it the most with my neurodivergent clients who really appreciate the benefits of being able to work with their own vestibular systems and tune in to what they need for regulation on that day. And it's one of those times where the versatility of the hammock really helps me. So say we're doing that move where you're sitting in the hammock and you've got each foot on the ground. So people who want to just chill, you can sit and breathe and feel the fabric, or you could do a little gentle forward and back motion. So that has that vestibular soothing effect, bonus effect of working with those muscles we were talking about that have to work for us all day to keep us upright as we sit, a chance to gently lengthen and stretch some of those muscles. Or if you are someone who needs vestibular stimulating movements to feel regulated, you could turn yourself on a circle on the floor and then take your feet off the ground and spin. And I do have people who do that in class and really feel the benefits afterwards. I have a lot of people as well who come to me from healing professions and like taking care of other people professions. So a lot of teachers, nurses, social workers, parents, and people like that are so used to taking care of everyone else and focusing outwards. It can be a real process of tuning in and feeling into what they need to refill their cup. And I feel like with these type of vestibular moves, it can be a way into that, because often you can just notice how your body and your mind feel flowing on from that movement. And in that moment, you can tune into what's working for you and then focus on giving your mind and your body what you need at that moment. And it's quite simple and quite accessible.
What would you say to the person who just said, "Oh, I think she called me out"? The person who says, "I care so much for other people." You're a caregiver, a mother, a parent, a teacher, a nurse. You have so many different people that you care for, but you're not necessarily prioritizing and taking care of you. What would you say to that person right now?
Well, the tricky thing is, these are the people who have the least time and the least energy to add something to the list. So that's actually where I'd start. Are you habitually taking on more of these responsibilities because that's how you're wired? Is there something on the list that you could delegate? Is there something that you've offered to do to someone that they haven't even asked for? Is there someone who's offering to help you that you're saying, no, don't worry about it, I've got this? That's where I'd start. Like, what can you take off the list to give yourself a little bit of breathing space? And it could literally be just taking that space to rest and breathe and do nothing and put your feet up. Or maybe there's something that you could do in that time that lights you up. So maybe it's even just having a bath. I know that's a self-care cliche. Maybe it's like having a nap. Maybe it's taking time to do some gardening. Like, is there something that feels like self-care, something that you know that works for you, something that you enjoy? And if you've made that little bit of space in your schedule, how can you fill it with something that's going to be for you? Because you're already taking care of all of the other people. You're already doing all of these things to make a positive impact in other people's lives. Like, what can you do for yourself to make that positive impact in your own life?
I think that you hit some really good points with that question, Jo. One, how are they wired? What's your wiring look like? And it could just be, what is your identity, the roles you play, how you prioritize them. But that wiring was key, because if you're wired to say no to people who are offering you help, but it could also give you some time back for yourself to care for you or show up for you or do something differently or take something off your plate, that's huge. In addition to that, it's really about what lights you up. And if you haven't even had the moment to be still, something that came to my mind was like, even if you're just being still in the car for 5 to 10 minutes before you transition from the work role into the housekeeping or house giving or house provider or caregiver role, can you give yourself 5 minutes just to show up for you? What does that look like? And so I'm really grateful that you talked about wiring. We think about the different identities, but most importantly, how to get to the value and the importance of prioritizing what lights you up. It's not something that you have to do for a long period of time, but what can you be more intentional about? Even if it's giving yourself a longer bath or an intentional bath where maybe you are listening to something that's going to allow you to really be present and not just thinking about all the tasks that you have to do. And so I'm really glad that you kind of broke that down. Many women in your community deal with fatigue, hormonal issues, body image struggles. How does aerial yoga really provide them this space that they may not feel like they identify and really are represented in?
I think, like, starting with the body image struggles, it can be a really tricky one, because if you don't feel good in your body, if you don't feel safe in your body, and this could be from disordered eating, it could be from perceptions that you might have of your own body. It's separate, but also this applies to people who have PTSD as well. If feeling into your body and tuning into your body is something that does not feel relaxing, if it feels triggering, if it feels activating, if this is the instruction that everyone is giving you to tell you how to relax and it has the opposite effect on you, or it just doesn't feel possible, because interoception is something that is diminished when, in, like, say, PTSD, people are hypervigilant because that's what they've needed to do to feel safe in the world and to stay safe in the world. The hammock can be a bridge into those interoception means feeling into your own body. So if you don't feel like it's comfortable or possible to feel into your body, you might be able to feel into the fabric, and you might be able to feel into the movement in the fabric, which doesn't hit the same triggers, but it does allow you into that present moment awareness. And it may make it more and more possible to feel into those other layers of, like, oh, what movement feels good for me? Or, oh, what movement is hitting a sensitive spot? Like, where do I need to be careful with? Or how long do I want to stay in this pose? Like, what feels helpful and what starts to take it into feeling draining or exhausting? So it can be like a bridge from your inner world and your outer world, because it's like this meeting point, this place where your body meets the fabric. So that is one aspect that I think is really helpful. The fatigue and the pain aspect, I think they go together. And it's like that stuff we've been saying, how the permission to just lie in the hammock and rest and breathe if that's what you need. If maybe the mission on the day was finding this 1 hour where you don't have other responsibilities, where you've sometimes it can be helpful to actually have to bring your body somewhere physically and switch your phone off. Like that can be a way of actually detaching from all of the other things that you need to do just for that hour. And then once you're there, once you've done that, how do you really give yourself that time and be present with that and not just go into your to-do list of all of the things that you need to do when you leave the practice? And sometimes giving your brain something interesting to tune into in that moment, like the novelty feeling of this different type of movement. And for some people, it is just the supported cocoon shapes. Some people need a bit more stimulation. So that's when we get into the vestibular stuff. Maybe you need upside down. Maybe you need to swing. Maybe you need to like do these other movements, like have this mind-body project of putting together these different movements. And that is what helps you stay present and helps to give you that breathing space from all those other things on your mind.
Yeah, I appreciate that because truly movement belongs to everybody, not just certain bodies. If someone wants to start reconnecting with their body through movement but feels overwhelmed, what's that first step, that practical entry point for them?
I think it's figuring out whether you are someone who needs to go to a different place to get into that different headspace mentally, or if you are someone who does not have time for that, maybe you only have 5 or 15 minutes, and something like an online video would work for you. And I have many people who come to the studio who are like, I look at a computer all day. It's not going to be what I want to do for my movement and my relaxation and my meditation practice. But I also work with other people, especially people who are working with like ME and chronic fatigue and energy impairment disabilities, where if you leave that house that day, maybe that's all you're doing. So to remove that barrier of having to leave the house, which would take up all your extra energy, and just doing an online short guided practice, like if that's what's accessible for you. I'm a big believer in bed yoga as well. So a practice you can do without getting out of your bed. You can do a lot of different things. And if you have a health condition that means you have to spend a lot of time in your bed, it might just feel like movement's just not even a possibility. But there is a lot of stuff that you can do, even if you break that 15-minute practice up into 5-minute sections. It's like feeling into where you're at, noticing what you're drawn to, and then seeing if you can find that meeting point.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you for that. Do you need to get into a different place, literally and physically, just to get into a different headspace? Or does it mean you just need to get a little creative in regards to what you're actually doing? You're a heavy component on bed yoga. So even those who are bedridden or someone who has to stay in the bed for a while, there's still things that can be done to be intentional with movement. But most importantly, if you only have 15 minutes and you don't have the full 15 minutes, you can get in 5-minute movement moments. So I want to say movement moments. Put that in the comments if you're still vibing with us and you're tuning in on YouTube while we're on the video version. But if you're listening on your favorite audio podcast distribution platform, make sure you give the show a rating and a follow as you are tuned in. Outside of aerial yoga, what are some simple ways women can begin supporting their nervous system through movement daily, Jo?
So there's one aspect that really kicks in group settings, and it's the benefits of co-regulation. So moving in rhythm with other people can give you the nervous system benefits of like just the power of the group energy. It can help you feel more calm. It can help you feel more relaxed. It can help you feel more energized just by showing up. Like you don't have to do the same movement to get those benefits. It's about being in that community and in that group. And I do actually teach like some community classes, like this is a great situation because I get paid by my local council, but the classes are free for the whole community. And I see those benefits. Like a lot of people might be isolated. They might not have the budget to pay to go to a yoga class. And these classes I teach are chair yoga classes as well. So they're very accessible. And people are like, they develop friendships. Like they say hello to each other. It's cool because you can drop in and out of it. Like you don't have to chat to other people to get the benefits. You'll get it from the movement and from being present in that group. Or I see friendships develop. I see people take walks afterwards or go for coffee afterwards. So like that's a really powerful aspect of this as well. And the other thing that can be really powerful is music. So when we were talking about like what can we do to get moving, like if you love to dance and you have 2 minutes to put on your favorite song and do like a bit of lounge room dancing, like that can totally shift your mood.
Yeah, I like it. So actually dancing was what came to mind when you said moving in rhythm with others, that co-regulation. I was like, oh my goodness, I've been dancing since the age of 2, probably right before I turned 2. And it was tap, jazz, ballet, lyrical, hip hop. And that was really my first love. And it was just my form of movement. It wasn't until I got older and I was no longer taking those discipline or styles of dance that I was like, okay, what am I going to do to move this body? Like, how am I going to align it? So when you said that, I was like, I loved it. It was just something about dancing with others. And we were doing the same dances or partly the same movements, though, versus, what we were referring to earlier. And so I kind of tied the two into what you just spoke of in regards to how you can start moving today. But having a jam session, nothing is wrong with that. Just tuning into the song. And even if you don't even have the song to play, dancing to your own beat, rhythm, or singing is also a way to get moving and grooving. What transformations have you seen physically, emotionally, or mentally from women who commit to this style of practice, area yoga?
So one transformation I share in my book, and she's shared her experiences, so I feel like comfortable sharing them here as well. So Wendy's a contributor in my book, and she's autistic, she has ADHD, and she describes herself as always being the biggest person in the room in every yoga class. And she would go to class as a punishment feels like too strong of a word, but as something she feels like she should do, something she felt bad when she didn't do, but never something that she enjoyed. And she actually described the sensory experience of being in class made her dissociate. So some of it was loud music, some of it was like bright lights. It was like that gym environment, lots of other people being there, that feeling of being singled out when even if the instructor was trying to be helpful, there was too much attention on her in that class, and none of it felt relaxing, but it felt like something that she was supposed to keep doing because this is what you do to take care of yourself and be healthy. So hearing her describe how the aerial hammock actually gave her this opportunity to feel good in her body, to start to develop that interoceptive awareness that we spoke about, which in ADHD, like you can be quite hyper focused, and she's an artist as well. So she'd get into an art project and then like forget to go to the toilet for like 8 hours or something. So it started bringing her back in touch with these messages from her body to experience pleasure through movement, to realize that this is something that she could do for herself because she wants to, not because she should. And from there to feel a lot more at home in her own body and like empowered to listen to her body and to like more and more tune into the things that are going to feel good for her.
I like that. I love that for her. That introspective awareness is powerful. And it's almost to the point where like you just can't not value it enough, and giving yourself the opportunity to do that. But most importantly, to feel at home in your body. So women don't feel at home in their body. Some women feel like victims in their body. Some women feel powerless when it comes to their body. And so I really love being able to hear that transformation and what that's done for someone else, that it was so challenging at the beginning and what it was for. For every woman listening could shift one belief about their body starting today, what would you want that to be for them?
I think it would be shifting the belief that it's about how you look into it's about how you feel.
I like it. How you feel versus how you look. Yes. Okay, Jo. So we're getting ready to get into our Vitality Sparks round. So it's quick, fast, rapid responses. Are you ready?
Drink of water.
Okay. Here we
I'm
go.
ready.
One movement practice that instantly calms the nervous system.
Swimming.
One myth about yoga you'd love to break.
That you have to be flexible to do it.
A sign your body is asking for gentler movement.
Exhaustion.
Your go-to reset when you feel disconnected from your body.
I think it's got to be the lounge room dance floor.
What does feeling at home in your body mean to you?
For me, it's comfort and ease.
Comfort and ease. Y'all drop that in the comments. Comfort and ease. All right, Jo, the last two signature questions of the Empire Plates, Empire Lives podcast. What would you tell to the girl dads, the father figures, role models, partner spouses of women who are dealing with heavy periods, pelvic pain, fatigue, burnout, endometriosis, adenomyosis, polycystic ovarian syndrome, fibroids? How could they best be part of this healing journey?
Listen and advocate. There's so much medical bias. Women's complaints are often dismissed, often under-believed, diminished. So if someone in your life is telling you about these things, listen to them and back them up.
I love it. Listen and advocate. All right. If you could have a meal with any historical figure, who would it be and what would you all eat?
So I would love to have a meal with Josephine Baker.
Okay.
She has had such an amazing and interesting life. Maybe she'd bring her pet leopard and I could have a little pat. I'm a vegan, so hopefully that would be good for her as well. But maybe we could find like an amazing vegan meal in Paris and she could tell me some stories, I'm sure.
Okay, I'm with it. Well, thank you so much for being a guest on the Empire Plates, Empire Lives podcast, reminding us of why movement is important and giving us the opportunity to explore aerial yoga. Let the people know where they can find you, connect with you.
Thank you so much, Jovonnie. So you can find me on Instagram. I'm Garden of Yoga. My website is gardenofyoga.com.au. My book is called 8 Limbs of Aerial Yoga, Adapting Practice for Accessibility, Neurodiversity, and Physical Support. You can find it on all of the major online retailers. It comes out April 21st, but also you can ask for it at your local independent bookstore. I would love that. The podcast that I co-host is called the Flow Artist Podcast, and you could find that on all of the regular podcast apps. And I think that's everything.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you, Jo. So if you've been feeling stuck, overwhelmed, or disconnected from your body, book your healing breakthrough session, your first step to getting out of survival mode and back into alignment. Check the show notes. Go over to Forward Vibrations. That me. Y'all, it's your Healthy Habits and Lifestyle Coach Jovonnie, host of the Empire Plates, Empire Lives podcast. Thanks for vibing with me, y'all.